Hello and welcome to the Powerful African Women, the POW podcast.
The podcast to empower the POW in you.
I'm Aissatou.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we're going to talk about women's role in African societies, gender equality and feminism.
A topic chosen by our guests of the day, Fatou and Gbemisola.
Yes, that's right, because we have two guests today.
So we'll present our guests and their choice for the topic.
We'll define the topic because feminism is broad. We're going to start talking about the African issues with it.
We'll discuss everything, we'll share our experience and argue our points of view.
So stay tuned.
And listen.
Hello, I'm so excited that both of you are here. Yes, because today we have two guests on this podcast. So the first part, as you know, it's gonna be presenting our guest. Guest number one, can you tell us what is your POW identification? That means how do you want us to call you during the entire podcast?
My POW identification is Fatou.
Fatou, okay, I'm gonna be calling you Fatou. And the second guest?
Hi guys, my name is Gbemisola.
Nice
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so back to Fatou. Can you tell us what is your POW country?
That will be Senegal, born and raised.
Yes, girl. And so, Gbemisola, what is your POW country?
I was born in Nigeria, but I have been in the US since I was 10, but I identify with both countries. So yeah, I'm a unique situation.
That's good. I mean, there's a lot of girls like you, but yeah.
I know, I'm kind of like you too, so we kind of all...
So, Fatou,
Yes.
back again to you. What is your POW goal? That is, what is your kind of, the thing you want to accomplish in your life?
Okay, so I aspire to become an African economist in order to participate in development research in Africa.
That's huge, girl.
Yes, that's amazing. We support you 100%, darling.
Thanks.
So, Gbemisola, what is your POW goal?
I am still trying to figure that out actually, but right now I'm focused more from a longer term point of view on building my mental strength, but long term I definitely know that whatever I do will have to go back somehow to the motherland and empowering Africans. So
That's good. That's important,
Yeah.
right?
yes.
All right. So, Fatou, again, what is your POW academic and path in your career? Maybe if you have started working.
Well, since I want to be a researcher, currently I am pursuing my PhD in economics at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles.
Nice. That's actually where we met. And you, Gbemisola, what is your POW academic or maybe your career if you have started working?
Yes. So I've actually started working for a renewable energy company for the past 6 months.
Amazing.
That's good. And POW is also about having fun. So, Fatou, can you tell us what is your hobbies? What do you like to do when you want to distract yourself or do some fun stuff?
Well, I really like to watch TV shows. Senegalese TV shows because Senegalese pride, of course.
Oh, Maîtresse d'un homme marié and all of that. Okay.
I also like investigation TV shows. The Blacklist is the best, hands down. Okay. And then besides that,
Okay.
I love to read. Right now, actually, I have my private personal library in my room, and I have 29 books so far.
Wow. Okay, you're gonna talk about it in the end of the recording because we're doing a recommendation section, so it's gonna work perfectly out. So, Gbemisola, what is your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, let's see. Well, you see, I'm such a fun person. I like to I like to bike actually. That was kind of an accidental hobby, but yes, I like biking. I like reading. Recently, I've been reading a lot of self-help books, and I like watching YouTube vlogs because it gives me insight into human beings' lives that you might not otherwise get from talking with people because people aren't willing to
That's
be
so
vulnerable.
true.
That's very true.
Okay, all right. So that was the first part of the presentation. I love knowing a bit more about both of you. So now I'm gonna let Sarah play a little game with you.
Hi, girls.
Hey,
How are you guys
Sarah.
doing?
Great.
I'm kind of nervous, low-key.
Don't be nervous. It's actually fun. Seriously, like it's really fun. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna ask you guys like really quick questions. You don't really think too much. I just like you just have to answer. Okay, so it's called a fireside chat. So I'll just ask you like two options. Let's say number one, urban or countryside.
Countryside.
Country.
Wow. Okay. Second question: in an office or on the field?
On the field.
On the field.
Okay. Netflix or and chill, or going out and partying with your friends.
Netflix and chill
Netflix and
any day
chill.
of the week.
You guys, man. Okay. Anyways, not judging. I'm not judging. And then last question. Okay, that one is a little tricky. So just tell me. I wanted to start a fight. So I'm asking this question: jollof rice or chebujen, which is the actual jollof rice
Exactly.
from every other country, the real one.
Chebujen, please.
Shebujen, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to start a
Yes.
fight, but she knows the truth, so that's amazing.
I know, because Fatu and I have talked about this, and I think historically jollof rice started in Senegal,
Yeah.
so I have to give it to y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, girls. So I think people know now a little bit more who you are. And now we gonna start the more serious part, so the discussion. So how is it gonna go? We're gonna ask you some questions and we're just gonna, the four of us are gonna talk about it, okay? First, we have a title, but we really don't know what is the topic. So can you tell us a bit more about the issue and the topic you wanted to raise and why you wanted to talk about this topic today?
So today we shall be discussing the topic of feminism. And basically the way we decided on this topic is Fatu and I always have deep discussions, and I usually force her to have these discussions even when she doesn't want to. And when we're
Yes.
when we're in undergrad, we always used to talk about this, especially feminism. And so I had also been doing a lot of reading recently on feminism and masculine and feminine energies, and so it just was relevant, and I brought it up. I had sent her some articles, and we're like, you know what, we're discussing this anyway, why not bring it to a more public platform? So that's how it began.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we also really want to hear other people's opinions about this topic too.
But this topic is kind of broad. So what is the actual issue that you want to raise about feminism?
What is the focus that you guys want to kind of?
Yeah, I feel
get
like
into?
we'll talk a lot about how societal norms define our roles as women.
African societies, right?
Yeah, mostly African societies, but also just generally. But yeah, mostly African societies, yeah.
All right. So just to give a little like kind of help to our listeners, so we've actually already defined the parts. So first we're going to be talking about like defining feminism. So because everyone has a different definition of this concept, so we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about the feminism issues in Africa. So why is there an issue? What are the reasons why that's an issue? What is the impact on some stuff like religion, like maybe traditions and all of that? And then the last part is going to be about how can we tackle the gender inequality issue in the African context. So which things should we change? Who should we ask for? What should we change? So this is how the episode is going to go. So as I was saying, let's talk about the first part, so defining feminism, because when we were talking about this in the preliminary talk, we realized that the four of us actually had a different concept and idea of what feminism exactly is. So I'm going to start with a very simple question, girls. Are you a feminist?
Yes.
Well, I am not a feminist. Not really, because I'm a living paradox.
And I would answer it's complicated because that's
that's the best answer. We have a yes, no, and it
is quite complicated.
That's like
So
your Facebook
that'd be
relationship
my
status
final
right
answer.
there.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking about. So yes, and me, I would say like no, I'm not real. Like I don't like the word feminism, so no, I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna say I'm a feminist.
Interesting.
Okay, so because Gbemisola was the only one who said yes, I am, like without like thinking about it twice, I'm gonna ask you, what do you mean by saying yes, I am being a feminist or I am a feminist?
To me, feminism simply means that the woman has a right to choose how she lives her life. So no one else gets to tell her, no structures in place, no men or women get to tell you how you should live your life. It's simply do you have a choice? Yes, I have a choice, and I am the main I'm the main person that gets to say how I live my life. So through those lens, I would say yes, I'm a feminist.
Yeah, and I feel like through those lens, all four of us actually can say yes, we
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
feminists too. And so, Fatou, now, why would you say that you're not? Or, I don't know, what was your answer
I
again?
said
You say,
not
well,
really.
not really, right? Okay, why is that?
Okay, for me, when it comes to defining feminism, I think it's really crucial that we distinguish the fundamental idea of feminism and the movement, because the fundamental idea of feminism, which is the core of the movement, is simple, and I think it's pretty universal. It's basically the advocacy for women's rights, and that's something that resonates to me, obviously, because one, I'm a woman, but also simply because I'm a human being. I feel like every human being should be for women's right, okay? But then with every idea comes different movements, and these movements take different forms. Like, for example, feminism in Senegal looks very different from, not very, but looks different from feminism in the US. And to me, honestly, I've been living in the US for the past, how many years? I think 6 years. 4, 5, 6. Okay, 5.5. Anyways, I've been living in the US for the past 5.5 years, and I don't really, feminism in the US just doesn't speak to me. It's not something that I relate to it for two main reasons. The first reason is that, there are some things that they're fighting for. I'm not saying it's not important, but I think just coming from Senegal, it's not a priority to me, and I don't think it's a priority to my country, you know?
I was just gonna say, because you say like it's not a priority for me. The movement, the kind of thing they are doing, is not what is important.
Yeah,
for
most of
you.
the things they fight for.
But you feel that you need to fight for something, but not the same thing as the American feminists.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And and the second reason is that honestly, usually Western feminism tends to be too aggressive for me. You know, like they have an idea of what liberty, what freedom means for women, and they want to impose the idea on everyone.
I agree.
I do agree. For me, like when you say feminism, I hear femen, like, the women that show their breasts and those kind of stuff. And I'm like,
I mean,
no, I'm not that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, they think if you're a woman, you should, I don't know, they have all these ideas about being a woman and being free, and if they see you're different, or for example, a specific example is that I wear the headscarf, the hijab, the Muslim headscarf, and they have this idea that if you wear the headscarf, automatically it means you are oppressed, you were forced to wear it by a man. And like literally I chose, Gbemi knows, I started wearing the hijab, like my parents don't even know why I did it, okay? I chose to wear it, no one forced me to wear it, but like, these things like that.
Wow.
And so that's why, at least as long as I'm living in the US, I really cannot call myself a feminist, okay?
No, I agree completely. I think I was actually going to say the same thing as Fatou, right? It's like, I say it's complicated just because I feel like, people define feminism differently, and then here, and like you said, in the US, or like there in the US now that I'm not there anymore, their definition can be quite aggressive or doesn't always align with what I see as, and I feel like, feminism, it just depends on the person and depends on the culture and what their needs are. Like Fatou was saying, it has a different connotation for their point of view compared to like our point of view. And even in Europe is the same thing, right? Like in France, they have some feminism movements. In Russia, there are some feminism movements that are completely different from what I think, like aligns with my view as a feminist. Same thing in countries like Saudi Arabia, So yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, it's just a very complicated topic, and like I don't call myself a full feminism because there are some stuff I still kind of am old fashioned about that, like some feminists completely want to get rid of, that I don't agree with. So it's just like I definitely am an advocate, for like women, freedom of whatever they want to do, but having to, like force it completely on every woman, I don't think, like that's something I just don't agree with as
for me, it's a bit in between what you said, so Saran and Fatou, and what Gbemisola said is that for me, the most important thing about feminism, I totally agree that there is some kind of geographical and context, into what feminism, and I'm more an African feminist, by the way. But what I do agree with Gbemisola is that I don't care about the word you're using. I actually hate feminism because I don't want to show or say stuff because I'm a woman. I just want to be treated equally as a man, have the same kind of opportunity. Don't be kind of stick into the category of being a housewife or having to hold a household because I'm a woman. I just want to be considered a human being. Okay, I'm different physically from a man and all of that, and genetically, but still I am a person and I want to be considered the same as a man. And I think Gbemisola, that's kind of what you said.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I agree with what you say, Aisato, but that's where I'm like, for me, it's dangerous to say that I want to be fully considered, as equal. I don't know. I feel like we're all equal, men and women, blah, blah, blah. But there are still some limitations just based on.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, based on just the way we were, physically. Just genetically,
so I feel like saying. Physically and genetically.
So saying completely that, hey, I want to be fully considered as a man, and then I don't think it's completely possible.
But in terms of some stuff, I think we should have the same.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think what you guys are touching about is the idea of, actually this goes back to the power of media, because what if you see a movement and the way that movement is being portrayed by media is how most people are going to think of that movement. And
exactly,
I think that I think that that's the issue. But the reason why I don't want to get so caught up in that is because ultimately we're all fighting for the same thing and we all have different experiences. So we're not always going to agree. It's like people thinking all Black people should think the same. You don't have to think the same, right? Just because you're Black. You don't have to think the same thing because you're a woman. But because in media, we tend to see only one side of that feminism, and people don't always agree with that feminism. And I agree that the feminism we see on media tends to be I think lean towards man hating sometimes, and just asking for really some things that are just like really ridiculous, and it tries to erase the differences between men and women and say that there are no differences. But at the same time, I think there's a danger in saying I'm not a feminist simply because I don't believe in one wave of feminism, right? Like, because feminism itself is saying you get to choose, right? So Sahar, if you want to choose what kind of way you want to live out your feminism, that's the part of it. But I think we need something to unite us as women, and I think that's why the word feminism matters, because it also kind of honors the women in our past who were fighting for basic things like voting rights, land rights, property rights. So that's why I think it's still important to accept the term.
And also,
I agree.
Speaking of, finding where the box of whatever, the feminism box that you fit in, like I said earlier, you said that you're an African feminist, and I know there's also Islamic feminist. There's a lot of kinds of feminism, and to me, I remember when I was having this discussion with my friends, they were like, Fatou, you don't need to be an American feminist, you can be an African feminist. But I was like, I don't think I can come and be like, oh, I'm an Islamic feminist, or I'm an African feminist, without being without knowing what that entails. I've read about issues surrounding feminism, but I haven't really read about Islamic feminism or African feminism in order to really own the title, and that's why for now I refrain from associating myself with any kind of movement, because I need to be aware of the connotations.
I
agree too. And that's actually interesting, because that's gonna kind of put us to the third part. Why is the concept of feminism viewed as an insult in African culture? And actually, I'm asking you the question, but it's kind of linked with what Fatou says. The issue is that I think when we are insulted by people and treated as feminists, they're kind of insulting us because of being a feminist according to the Western vision. You know what I mean? So
I think it also it's very linked to what Bemi mentioned earlier about media. There is this trend on media about feminists, about women who do stuff just to make a statement about being a feminist. For example, they would decide to not get married, and they would think they want to show the world that they're independent and strong as women. And these trends are like, as you said earlier, women showing their breast on media to show that they're free to do whatever they want. And to me, I think in Senegal, like I think there's a tendency in human beings to always focus on the extreme sides of things, you know. So in Senegal, as soon as you say that you are feminist, they always link you to the extreme side of feminism, and they think that you're that kind of person, and they also think that you hate men, that you don't want to get married, that you want to be completely independent, you know, and things like that. And that's why I think in Senegal, usually, as the moment you say you are feminist, ooh, man, they were like, ooh, no one's gonna marry you. Like, men would be scared of you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. People are scared when they say that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And maybe Bemi and Sarah, we haven't heard a lot about about like your point of view on this matter. Why do you think in African culture it's such an insult when someone tells you you're a feminist?
So I think that it really depends again from where you're from, in the sense that I like, in my point of view, I've never felt like, you know, somebody will be insulted by being called a feminist. So
oh wow, okay,
exactly. So I can't relate, sadly, to that question.
Oh, so maybe it's the Senegalese stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think probably it really
And
depends,
then-
and also like I mean, in Gabon, it was, by when I was there, it was not such a big deal, you know. But feminism was not even such a movement in Gabon. And then I moved in the US. There, it's all about feminism and every people's right, you know. So I'm not really familiar with like that insult part of feminism in African cultures.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I would say the same thing. In Nigeria, first of all, I really can't speak of, you know, how it's viewed in Nigeria because I haven't lived in Nigeria for a long time, so that's not fair. But I will say that the times I have been there, I haven't personally seen that feminism is seen as an insult. I mean, maybe
But
there's some
maybe,
things
Exactly.
women.
I think it's really maybe a
No,
Senegalese.
it's not a Senegalese thing, actually. Maybe I think in Nigeria,
Yes.
okay, obviously I've never been to Nigeria and I don't know much, but I know that I was watching Chimamanda's talk, and she said like the first time she was called a feminist, like the guy who called her a feminist said it as an insult. And even Chimamanda, but back then she was really young and she didn't really know what feminism was. and she felt really uncomfortable, she said. And she said afterwards, like she did some research about feminism and she realized, you know what, I actually like this. And when she tells people that she's a feminist, people tell her automatically, oh, you're gonna be unhappy because you're not gonna be married. And then she decided to call herself a happy feminist, like things like that. So I think there's still bad connotations linked to feminism, even in Nigeria at least.
But that's the thing. Yeah, there are some there are some bad connotations definitely linked with feminists, and that, I think that's just even anywhere. Like as a woman, whenever you feel a little independent, or like whenever they define you as more independent, I think sometimes it's in a really bad connotation, or like in a really bad way. You know, they want to they define you. But I think for like to link that fully with feminism, I don't agree fully on that concept of like saying it as an insult.
Okay, so that was good because like I feel like at the end of the day we kind of all agree on the fundamentalism of feminism. Is just that maybe the wording, the context, which can be problematic. So now let's talk about the problem. So we're gonna talk about the feminism issues in Africa. So I'm gonna ask actually both our guests, when did you start realizing that you had to act for more feminism, or as we've defined above, and was there like maybe a triggering event or a context that made you realize, oh, okay, I want to fight for women's rights, or I want to call myself a feminist, maybe?
Okay, for me, honestly, growing up in Senegal, I was raised in a household where both girls and boys were given the same opportunities. Okay, I have two brothers and I have one sister, and my sister and I were expected my parents expected the same from my sister and I as from my brothers. You know, we were given the same opportunities. I never felt like I couldn't do something just because I'm a woman. Okay, I felt really empowered growing up, and so I was pretty oblivious. I was, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was oblivious to like how marginalized women were in society. And also like my mom, she worked, okay? She worked a lot. Like, she used to work sometimes even more than my dad. Like, she was pretty independent and all of those things. So to me, it's like, yeah, women are free to go to school. They can have jobs. They can stay at home. They can do whatever, in my head. And then I remember, I'm not really proud of this, but it's only 4 years ago, okay, while I was in college, that I was having a conversation with one of my friends. And then she started talking about how women, like in public, men tend to cut women off, and men were not respectful to women. They wouldn't listen to women's opinion. And I was very confused. I'm like, what do you mean? And I was pretty naive, I would say. And I started telling her, you know what, I can't relate to that because from my experience from Senegal, I remember women, even at school, women were at the forefront. Like, we were never scared to speak up in class. We used to participate, all those things. And at the end, she just looked at me. She was like, wow, Fatou, I wish all women were like you. And at that moment, it hit me. I'm like, first of all, what do you mean you wish all women were like me? I am just an ordinary Senegalese woman who grew up in Senegal. I don't have any extraordinary education. I went to an ordinary Senegalese school and all of those things. And then at that moment, then I was like, okay, then maybe I need to know more about these issues. And I started reading more. First rule, do your research. And I started reading more about the issues. And I started realizing how marginalized people were in society. And then, and that's when I decided that it was actually important to advocate for women's rights, I think. And that was only 4 years ago, so late.
I just have like one question, Fatou, is that I don't totally believe you, when you say that from my own experience, because yes, I was giving the same opportunity as my brothers. I'm the only girl in my family and all of that. But I mean, at home, was it the case? Like, weren't you asked, like, were you considered exactly the same as your brother? Like, for instance, I'm going to say, whenever a guest was coming home, weren't people sometimes telling you, oh, you need to bring the food, or you need to bring the drink because you are the girl of the house, or, oh, you need to behave that way because you are the girl of the house? So at home, were your parents even like treating you exactly the same as your brother in terms of what you have to do at home?
I mean, it's not exactly the same, obviously. Like, you're talking about if guests come and then you have to bring the food. Honestly,
yes, or I don't know, like, oh, don't go play football because it's not a girl's game,
no,
those kind of stuff.
not that kind of stuff. But in terms of housework, my brothers, I would say they're pretty useless. Yes. But honestly, even I was useless too. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my parents almost didn't ask us to do stuff around the house. But obviously, for example, if there was no one helping at home, my mom would ask me to help. But also, like, for example, my dad would also ask my brothers to bring, if he brings something heavy, for example. Like, there were definitely some stuff that my brothers were expected to do, and some stuff that I was expected to do. But I don't think in terms of, growing up, I was playing with my brothers a lot. I played soccer. I watched soccer. No, like, I think generally it was pretty, like, my parents never told me, oh, don't do this because you're a woman.
I totally agree, because that was me. I was always like, why am I the one who has to do it? And my mom was so annoyed by me that she was like, okay, just go, so okay, I get that. And Gbemi, so when your turn, kind of, what was the trigger thing? What makes you want to be a feminist? Because you are a feminist, as you told us.
Yes, I am a feminist. And it's funny because I gave a very, like, instantaneous answer to what feminism was or is, and what my take on it is. But I don't have a defining moment of when I can say, okay, I'm a feminist. I think people like Chimamanda Adichie obviously played a role in that, watching videos accidentally, reading maybe some books in African literature classes. But so and similar to Fatou, I grew up in a Nigerian home, right, in Nigeria, where everyone was treated the same. Now, in my case, it's less complicated because they have 2 girls. So your question, Aisatu, doesn't apply. So you can't trick me. But but I grew up
I was trying to.
I grew up just being told, like, you can do anything regardless. Like, honestly, the concept of men versus women is not really something I even started thinking of until college. But if I had to give one example of where I really started to think, okay, what should I define myself as? I remember I went home about, was it 2 years ago, and I was we had some guests come into our house, a man and a woman, And you know, I'm the oldest, so of course you have to be respectful. You can't expect your parents to serve them. So they came, and I went into the kitchen to get something and serve both of them. And I remember as I brought like a stool with the food, a tray of food on it, and you know, I was bending over, you know, to put it in front of them, and I was like, here you go, I hope you like it, let me know if you want anything more. And the man was like, yes, this is good, you're learning how, you're going to be a good wife, you know, you're learning how to be a good wife.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
I hate that.
and
I hate that
and it
so
was
much
it was
too.
for me, obviously he meant well, and I wasn't angry with him. And that's one thing about media portrayed feminism, is they'll be like, you know, right then and then stop him and
Yeah,
yell at him.
exactly.
I don't believe in that, because the man is trying to compliment
Yeah.
me based on his worldview. So but in my mind, I was like,
Exactly.
you're associating submission and subservience with my womanhood. You know, you would never say that if the guy was doing that or something like that. So that's what kind of started me
Yes.
thinking, okay, what does
I
it
mean,
mean?
it would say the whole opposite if, you know, a guy would do that. It would be like, where is the girl? Why isn't she doing
Yeah,
it
why
instead
she,
of you?
yes, yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I agree. And yeah. And I think it's just kind of, yeah, the vision of what, like, the vision that people have. They're kind of, yeah, the guy wasn't trying to insult you. He was
No.
just doing a
Yeah.
compliment because for
Yeah.
him, that's the thing a woman should do. So maybe it's just to think of kind of consciousness, because, like, for sometimes people would say, yeah, feminism isn't compatible with Africa and with African culture. But if you look at history, and if you look at maybe other countries that are not your country, you realize that this type of feminism or gender equality or gender change of role actually existed in the future.
Oh,
For
yeah.
instance, for preparing for this
In the
like
past.
podcast, I actually read a story like before colonization and the Western influence and all of that. You had like the women had the way bigger role in the society.
Yes.
If you take, for instance, like I would take the example of the warriors. Like there were women warriors in Benin.
Yes.
They were kind of, it was in the 18th century,
The
so that wasn't like,
Amazons.
yes, the Amazon from Benin. They are called the Mino, or the Amazon of Dahomey.
Yeah.
That was the old name of Benin. And they were saying that men stay at home, and they have to crop like the corn, while we, like us women, are gonna go fighting. And it was accepted by society, meaning that women didn't all like only have to stay at home and take care of the children.
But
They could
you
also
know that
fight.
it
So-
hasn't stopped, you know, even if like it's still, I mean, in the past it was in the war side of it. Even right now, if you look at Benin and Togo society, most of like the hardworking job are made by women.
Yes, I've lived there. I've seen that. Like I've seen
Exactly.
how the women role in Togo is so different from the women role in
In most,
Senegal.
exactly,
You know?
most other West African
Yeah.
countries, you know, like women, they're still an
Yeah.
essential part. I mean, we've always been an essential part of the society anyways, but like in this context, women are like mostly the center of it.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was just gonna say definitely. I think not. I think it's a fact that before colonization, African societies were actually matriarchal societies. And you talked about women in Benin, but I was also reading about Yoruba women. Bemi is a Yoruba, by the way. And Yoruba
Yes.
women in
Shout
Nigeria,
out.
they like used to trade, and they were really involved. They were really involved in society economically, and in all aspects of society, you know. And so now, when I hear people back home, like African people now, they always tell you, oh, like women shouldn't work. It's just our tradition. It's just how it's done. I'm like, well, if you want to talk about
So
tradition,
wrong.
go read history first. Call me back after you read history. And then also like,
Yes.
there is also a simple example. We have like the recent movie that came out, Black Panther. You know, it was inspired by Baby loves this movie, by the way. She made me watch it. Anyways, it was inspired by pre-colonial Africa, and like you can see that, for example, the army, as you were talking about the Amazon, I think maybe it was inspired by the Amazon. The army
Yes,
is
it
an all-girl army, and they protect the king, you know. And women, like in the movie, women and men work shoulder to shoulder to make the society a better society. And I don't understand why we can't have that in our African societies now.
Yes, and to
Yeah.
add to that point, Fatu mentioned Yoruba women, and how, because I in a African history class I took as an undergrad, you know, you talked about how women were traders. Like the men would farm and the women would trade. So there was it was a kind of symbiotic relationship going on there, and they had a lot of power. And I remember reading in a book while I was doing research for my paper about the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, and how sometimes the women, like for example, they, I forgot the exact same term, it's slipping my mind now, but I think it's called sitting on a man. Like they would sit on a man. So if a man did something wrong, like to a woman, they would bring their association together and go to his house and like break down pull off the like palm, whatever, like his roof. They'd be shouting at him in the night so he couldn't sleep, like his household. They would do all those kind of things. And then there's even sometimes where the whole women in the whole like village would leave and go back to their they would leave, and they would leave to their villages, their fathers' villages, and keep the children with the men. So the men had to take care of the children as a form of protest. And then there was also a way of protesting where part of sitting on a man, like sometimes they would, you know, deny the men like either like some some nighttime activities, to put it nicely. So you know, they literally they were allowed to do these things. Now that's not to say that women were on full political and social status as men were, but they definitely, I would say, had more power, more recognition,
and more agency.
Yes.
So I mean,
I feel like, yeah. Sarah,
no,
go on, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, like, as a follow-up question. So what do you think happened so that, like, now the roles, you know, switched? Like now men, especially in those African societies, they are expected to be the main breadwinner, and then sometimes they feel like their pride has been affected if the woman is more active or she's fully, you know, like participating in the success of the household in terms of bringing funds, and she's also participating, you know, in the success of the society. Like, what do you guys think has been like the switch? What happens?
I find two main reasons. I think it's colonization and religion, honestly.
Yes, I would actually. I was trying to get you guys to that point because I think those are really the main two reasons.
Can you go a bit deeper on like on colonization? Like what do you think maybe brought, what did the colonizer, I don't know how to say that, brought?
I think,
yes, that kind of switch the thing or make it worse, because I think it was already
well,
existing,
I guess
but not
when
that
the
far.
colonizers came, they gave all the main role, all the power to men, basically, you know. It's they gave more opportunities to men. You know, they started schools like western schools, and they were forming the elite. Like if I take the example of the French colonization, their goal was to form an African elite. And if you look at all the African elites, for example from Senegal, they're all men. Most of them, 99.9% of them, are men. Okay. And so I think during colonization, like the colonizers just wanted to focus on men, and they gave all the power to men. And I think that's when the issue started. They basically flipped our society.
I was thinking also, yeah, like you said, a good point, like 99% of the power was given to men. But I feel like there's also this big view of women as like fragile people, right? They're like, they don't need to do much of the hard work. Especially at that time, there was a lot of building. There was a lot of industrial, you know, like influence and stuff. So there was a lot of really, you know, labor, like men labor, if it makes sense. So they saw women as like a fragile, you know, object, or like a fragile person that just needs to sit home, be pretty, take care of the kids, doesn't need to be active.
And that's actually the issue of feminism in the Western world today, but that's not our issue.
No, it is also our issue right now, because that's what most of the men are trying to do. I've had my own deal with that with my family and with some of the people that I'm talking to in general. It's like they just assume that even though you have the best education ever and you want to be part of this active world, they assume that your end goal is to sit down at home, be pretty, while the man is out there and working.
Yeah, but the difference I'm just saying is that if you look at how even today men are viewing Black women or African women, we're still viewed as strong women. Okay, we still have to be at home and all of that, but we're strong. While in the Western world, the white women, I would say that, are still fragile, and that's what they are work like fighting against. But in our culture, it's more like the role
It
the society has
depends.
given.
That I have to refute that because it depends. It depends on the context. Some people are still very narrow-minded. It's not their fault, like
Yes.
Bemi said, because it's also the way they were conditioned by the society. But it's just a big issue that has not been eradicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. It's like context is definitely important. Is uh, in feminism,
Yeah,
like,
it's
yeah.
very
So,
important.
Gbemisola, do you have like, what's your intake on that
Yeah,
matter?
so I mean I basically second what everyone else has said. I think from the books I remember reading in class, I specifically on Yoruba women who were traders and had the economic power before pre-colonial, and it was just that what yeah, like when the British came in, from what the book was saying, it was that, for example, they started putting heavy taxes on women, and the head woman of the market, who would be the one to decide when the market would run, who was the one that was helping women with their loans and their debts and things like that. They took power away from her, and I think what they were doing is the colonial offices, the new political structures that they were putting up. It was all men. So ultimately, the women didn't have power anymore in that economic sphere because they had to report to those
Yes.
men. They had these
Yeah.
taxes that were being levied on them that were not helping them.
Yes.
So, and I think, as they said, religion is like, with Christianity, it's like, oh, the woman stays at home. You're supposed to be this pure thing,
Yeah.
you're dainty, you're fragile, kind of like what you were saying, right? So then women had to take that on. I'm also curious. I don't know the answer to this. I'm also curious as to what level education played. I don't know that. I don't know if women
Right.
had the
Yes.
same exact right to education at all stages and ages that men had. So that must have also contributed somehow, I'm sure.
I love it because you're raising very important issues, and the good thing is that we're gonna talk about it in the part 2 of our
Yes, stay
podcast. So we're gonna
tuned.
talk about religion. We're gonna talk about education, the impact of education at home, but also education in school. And we're gonna talk about like maybe what should we do to fight that
Yeah,
and all.
solutions,
We're
And we're going to
It's
talk
all
about
about solutions.
religion, which is
Yes.
Hot
also a
topic.
big topic
I
in
think a big topic.
feminism.
We're gonna talk about all of that in part 2 of our podcast. So that was it for the discussion. We're just gonna quickly do our recommendation. That is the kind of new section we've started. So listen to the next episode because we're gonna keep talking about these issues. Okay, so I'm actually gonna do my recommendations. So mine is, as always, a reading recommendation. The book is called The 40 Rules of Love. In French, it's called Sophie Mon Amour. And the writer is a woman. I think she's French, but also from Turkey. Her name is Elif Shafak. And if you're interested about like religion or spirituality, actually, because they talk about all religion and more about a way of thinking, a way of behaving. It's really, really, really well written. It has amazing reviews. It's a very good book. So it talks about this kind of philosophy that's around the Muslim kind of philosophy, but actually the main character is a Jewish woman. So it's really, really about spirituality. So if you want to read a book about spirituality, love, a book that's gonna make you want to think about every action you're doing, I highly, highly recommend this book. I think this is my top 5 book, and this one is definitely one of my favorites.
Thank you, Aisatu. Well, I can go next because I also have a book to recommend.
Yes.
And the book is about feminism, and the title is Lean In, Woman, Work, and the Will to Lead. And it's written by Sheryl Sandberg, who is this executive at Facebook. And the book is basically, first of all, it's the first book after I had that conversation with my friend about feminism. It was the first book that I read that clarified a lot of the confusion that I had about this topic. And it's as I said, she's a female executive, and then she basically, in the book, she lays down all the challenges women face in the workforce, and also she talks about how to combat those challenges, and those are all based on her life experiences as an executive at Facebook. And also, I think it's a book I think everybody should read, Men and Women, because it shows women how to stand up to adversity. It also shows men how to foster an environment in which women can thrive. So I think it's a very important book, and it's a low key kind of geared towards women who want to have a professional career. And I like how what I like about the book is how she makes it clear that this is not what all women want. It's not every woman who want to have a professional career, okay? And then she makes it clear, but she says, okay, this is for women who want to have a professional career, but in case you want to have a professional career, these are the challenges, these are the solutions. So yeah, I like it.
Okay, Fatou, I'm definitely gonna read that one. Who wanna go next? Fatou or Gbemisola, do you have a recommendation?
I do have a recommendation, but that's a podcast. That's not like a book. So the podcast is called Wall Street Journal: Secrets of Wealthy Women. So I think it's like I've listened to a few podcasts of that specific channel, and it just talks about independent women, how to be successful in your career, if and like if you have a spirit of an entrepreneur, like they give you the right steps to succeed, to not be unapologetic in front of men. And I think it just gives you insights about how to successfully ask for whatever you want as a woman, especially in a male-dominated workplace. So just listen to this podcast and let me know what you think.
Yes, we will.
Best for last.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. You guys were a little slow on that. I was hoping you'd pick up. Like, come on, y'all. That was a little jab. But I would say, so I'm also going to be creative because books are overrated. I'm just kidding. Books are not overrated. But my recommendation is actually a TED Talk. I recommend how Africa can use its traditional knowledge to make progress by Chika. Her name is, I don't really know how to say her last name. This is so embarrassing. But
we're going to put all the links anyway on articles and on
good. Her name
medias.
is Dr. Chika Ezenia Eziebu. Hey! I mean, even the name, you can feel the power. The power. But, yes. she does work on, African development. She's worked for the World Bank and just like on African economics and basically trying to see how can Africans use their own resources to help ourselves. So I know recently she's released a lot of articles and publications on Rwanda, right? Studying what is Rwanda doing well and how can we apply that to other African countries. So I strongly recommend her TED Talk. And the one thing I super, super love about it is the fact that she has her Nigerian accent. Like, this is a woman going on a stage and she's like, I'm going to talk in my Nigerian accent. And she's not afraid to show her emotions. African people were emotional. She's not afraid to show it. So please go check it out.
Thank you. We're going to put all the links, the recommendation, the books and all of that on our social medias. So don't forget to look for those. We're gonna keep talking about this topic on the next episode, so don't forget to listen to our next episode, our December episode. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You just have to type Powerful African Women on your phone or on your computer.
And then on Instagram, follow us and then comment what you thought about this podcast. Okay, we want to hear from you.
Yes, we really want to know. What is your vision of feminism, maybe, or something like that? Yes, you can also, we are on Twitter also, or you can send us an email that is like on powerfulafricanwomen@gmail.com.
Let us know if you disagree with any of us too.
Exactly. Just give us your opinion.
Yes. So, yes, just send us like love, give us your opinion and everything you want.
No, I was going to say, and then also if you would like to be a guest in this podcast, just shoot us an email at the email that beautiful Aisatu mentioned before, or on Instagram or on Facebook. We would love to have you as a guest. Thank you so much for your attention.
And please talk about Fatou to your entourage, because that's the best way that we'll get a real network and more people listen to the podcast. And
don't forget to bring out the POW in you.